You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Bitcoin, Ether, Ripple, Litecoin, and more. Cryptocurrencies and other digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity. Provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments on everything from coins to tokens, futures, and even OTC options. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. This program is brought to you by Genesis Volatility, also known as GVol, home of institutional-grade crypto options analytics. Whether you're trading CeFi options or DeFi options, cryptocurrencies move. Use GVol Analytics to analyze implied volatility, model realized volatility, structure positions, and unlock alpha. For more information, visit gvol.io. That's GVOL.io. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of cryptocurrencies and digital assets. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again for the Crypto Rundown, the program here on the Options Insider Radio Network, where we go beyond our traditional stomping grounds of your VIX and your SPY and your Tesla and your Apple options. Look a little bit further afield. See what's going on in them, our crypto markets. Going to talk Bitcoin, the ETH, the volume, the volatility, the skew, the OI, and a whole bunch more. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-exciting Options Insider Radio Network. Pleased to be back here in the Chicago studios after our lengthy but fun sojourn there in the Southern studio. And, of course, if you want more content in your lives, more than what's coming at you, a couple of shows a day here on the on-demand side, head on over to theoptionsinsider.com/pro. That'll get you access to a couple more exclusive shows as well as live access to this and everything else we do here on the network. And it's a great time to be joining up because we are about to give away our July Pro Trading Crate. Yes, all these bespoke one-off things we give out to you guys all the time. The next one is coming up soon. So theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more about all that. As we keep on rolling, it is time for the Crypto Hot Seat.
Forget about cold storage. It's time to turn up the heat on thought leaders from the world of cryptocurrencies and digital assets. It's time to take their place on the Crypto Hot Seat.
All right, everybody. That music means it is time once again to roll out the Crypto Hot Seat and pick the brains of some people from throughout the world of crypto derivatives and indeed beyond. And our next guest is a newcomer to the program and indeed to the network. He is Rick Tomsic, the Chief Strategy Officer at NinjaTrader Group, as well as the founder of Tradovate. Rick, welcome to the Crypto Rundown program.
Thanks for having me, Mark. It's really a pleasure to be here.
And Rick, as we are wont to do with all of our first-timers here on the network, why don't you go ahead and give our audience a bit of an overview of your background in the financial space, as well as what it is you do over there as the Chief Strategy Officer of NinjaTrader Group.
Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to give you a little bit of background. I began my trading career really trading index options, primarily the XMI and OEX back in the early 90s, and I morphed quickly into futures. My entire career since then really has been involved in retail futures. I've always really embraced technology and this retail sector, which always hasn't been as cool as it is today. I launched my first online futures trading firm in 2001, and we exited that to Options Express in 2008. And that's still part of Charles Schwab today. I stayed there until approximately 2013 when I took a year off and figured out what I was going to do next. And what that was Tradovate and building another online futures brokerage firm, which we launched in 2014. It took us 2 years to build that firm, and we launched to the public in 2016. And since then, we've seen tremendous growth at Tradovate, and we were recently acquired by NinjaTrader Group at the end of last year, where I'm now the chief strategy officer for the group. And what do I do really on a day-to-day basis? It's really setting the strategic vision and direction for NinjaTrader Group, and that really encompasses technology, fostering innovation, product development, strategic alliances, exchange and game engagements, as well as M&A.
Well, you've seen the futures side of the space from a lot of different areas. Even started off in the OEX, the old 1.5. You don't hear about that much anymore, Rick. Those are the good old days of the SIBO.
Right. And I love the XMI as well. I mean, it's you can't find too many people today that used to trade XMI options.
When I walked on the floor of the SIBO, OEX was still a thing. It's hard pressed to find people who even know what the heck it is anymore these days. But it was just starting to be usurped by the SPX, and we all know who won that battle in the long run. But Rick, you're actually our first guest. Hard to believe you're our first guest from NinjaTrader as well. Never had anybody from NinjaTrader Group on the network before. And, it's been a fascinating time. You've obviously been focused on the retail side of futures for the better part of the last decade plus now. We've had a lot of guests come on the network over the past couple of years talking about everything going on the retail options side. We talked about the meme stock explosion last year and how much new options volume was coming in, how much new stock volume, how many new players were coming into the stock and options markets. We haven't really discussed that much on the retail futures side. So maybe before we even get into all the crypto fun, let's start there. You have a kind of a unique perspective on the retail futures market. Catch us up. What have the last couple of years, the post-pandemic era, what has that been like from a retail futures perspective? Have you seen the same massive growth, the same influx of new retail traders that we've seen on the equity and options sides, Rick?
Yeah, we absolutely have. It's been quite a phenomenon. And we really almost have to go back prior to the pandemic and where did all of this really kind of retail phenomenon start with? Because in retail futures was always kind of the lowest rung. It was always the professional or institutional side of the market in futures that got all of the glory. And retail was really kind of a place that no one really looked at favorably. But now it is. And that all started really in about 2015 when Robinhood came into the space. It was just as we were launching our firm and Robinhood came into the space on the equity side and really brought this whole new crowd in. And then you kind of dovetail that with the CME launching their micro futures in 2019. And then, of course, you mentioned the pandemic. The pandemic, everyone's staying at home. They've got cash in their pockets. They're sitting in front of their screens. They're trading while doing their day job. And we saw, really tremendous growth. And then really the part that I want to talk about today is what happened beyond there. There was a new exchange that was started called FairX. And we really kind of helped develop those products and supported those heavily at Tradovate. And the difference was they allowed us to be commission free in this space. And then FairX, based on the success of those products as well as their exchange technology, was recently bought by Coinbase. And the differentiation here is they're right size products. They launched the Nano Bitcoin futures that are commission free. And it's really been a game changer. So yes, we've absolutely seen this explosion of growth across the industry. I can give you a little bit about our size. I mean, when you think about futures, and I think crypto likes to think in notional value. As a firm, we trade well over 100 million contracts a year. And if you translate that into notional value, that's somewhere between $8 and $9 trillion of notional value that we're trading a year in futures. So while these are retail traders, they're hyperactive. There's lots of them. At NinjaTrader Group, we have about 650,000 users of the software and over 90,000 funded accounts. And that adds up to a lot of volume and a lot of activity.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of happenings going on in the crypto derivative space just in the past few months. Of course, what you're referring to, of course, the launch of these new Nano Bitcoin futures from the newly minted Coinbase Derivatives Exchange. By the way, I saw you have to work with Boris over there at Coinbase. You have my condolences, sir. A terrible human being, Boris Ilyevsky. He and I have butted heads many times over the years. He knows what he did. No, he's a great.
Yes, and Boris told me to tell you hello.
Oh, well, there's a lot that goes underneath that he's not saying there, Mr. Boris. But yes, glad to see he found his way back into the space over there at the Coinbase Derivatives Exchange. Let's get into that now. You mentioned the Nano. We've been talking about, micros at CME and a bunch of other things for a while. Coinbase launching into the crypto futures fray with a 1/100th size contract, a Nano contract. Walk us through that a little bit there, Rick. And why did you guys decide to launch this size of a contract? And what has the response to it been? And it's only been a month. What's the early days been like?
The early days have been phenomenal. You would have to go back to the CME's micro contracts in the index products, the S&P, the NASDAQ, et cetera, to see a launch of a product so successful. Really, when we discussed the size of this, the retail space, these smaller products are much better for the retail user. You can always put on more contracts. You don't have to trade one 1/100th of the size of the Bitcoin. If you want to trade a full Bitcoin equivalent, you simply put on 100. So it gives the retail trader tremendous flexibility in how they manage their position. So as you mentioned, it's 1/100th of the size. If the Bitcoin moves 100 points in price or dollars, you make $1. It's that simple. And really the ability for U.S. traders now to be able to short and trade against or hedge their cryptocurrency at Coinbase or any of the other exchanges, it is a game changer. Some of those derivatives exist overseas, but they didn't exist in the United States other than the CME's contract, which for retail traders is just a hair too big. If you look at the statistics, this isn't just me saying this has been a phenomenal launch. Since launch, the average daily volume's been somewhere around 72,000 contracts, and that's 16 million of notional a day, which is really phenomenal. These products are there's a tight spread, and Coinbase did a wonderful job of bringing in market makers to really support this product. You can pull it up on a depth of market, and it's one or two ticks wide with 5 to 6 levels deep on the order book. It trades around the clock. I think at the last time I looked at the statistics, 40% of the volume is coming outside of regular U.S. hours, which is 6 p.m. Eastern to 9 a.m. Eastern. That's 40% of the volume. And we at NinjaTrader Group, which encompasses NinjaTrader and Tradovate, really believe that we've had a hand in that. If you look at the math since the marketing started, the average daily volumes jumped about 50,000 contracts. It went from 72,000 to 120,000. So I think the retail support of this product is certainly going a long way.
Well, you mentioned a couple of key things there. First off, you mentioned the market maker support. I like to hear that. We've seen similar products launched in other spaces by other venues. I won't name names, and they claim they're going to have market maker support, yet they come out and the markets are atrociously wide and no one trades them as a result. So it's good to hear that they have a deep, tight markets out there. That's always a good starting point for any new product. And also, you kind of mentioned something that I think is worth repeating. The use case for these as a hedge, they're fungible. These are fungible products at the end of the day, which is great to see. Obviously, you have to do a few of them. But if you are sitting on some Bitcoin, let's say, or even fractional Bitcoin, these are small enough in a Coinbase account or perhaps even somewhere else, you can use these in a hedging scenario, which I think opens up a lot of interesting possibilities, Rick, that some of these other products that aren't fungible don't really offer.
I think that's exactly right. And traditionally in the U.S., you would have a retail trader that would buy Bitcoin, and if the price is going up, that's fantastic. If we've had a recent environment like the crypto winter that we're in or we're in or where we're at in that cycle, certainly it's not as fun holding on to Bitcoin as the price is declining. But now with these nano Bitcoin futures, you can continue to hold your position in the crypto and trade around it. And I think that's part of what we're seeing. Certainly, we see speculators in the market where they're just in there, they're not holding the underlying. There's a lot of volatility every day. These markets are moving up and down regularly on a daily basis, and they're just in there speculating, trying to take a piece out of the market every day. But from the hedging side, it's a real tool. As prices run up, you can take some of your position off or hedge it with the futures. And if the nice thing is, if the market continues to blow up in your face or you're wrong, you're hedged, and you're going to make the same on the Bitcoin cash side, and you're going to lose on the future side. However, if the price pulls back, you can cover your futures, booking a gain, and you still hold the underlying Bitcoin, which has really been a game changer. And the fractional size of these lets you do that in pieces. It's not all or nothing. You can choose to hedge in small increments, building a position.
Well, you mentioned the crypto winter. I lose track of which number this is, 2, 3, 17, who knows? There've been a few of them now. But you picked an interesting time to launch and really dive into the fray with a new product kind of right in the teeth of this crypto winter period. Obviously, the last couple of weeks, we've seen a bit of a rally, so maybe that's mitigating somewhat out there. But I'm curious from your perspective, what has that been like? Not just launching this new product into this period, but also in general for all of your crypto offerings over there at NinjaTrader. Has there been, shall we say, a bit of a downsizing in interest alongside the downsizing of the crypto out there, or has the crypto remained firm even as things have been trending in the red for the last couple of months?
It's actually the opposite. It's remained firm. And in fact, I think retail traders typically like the downside trade more. Retail futures traders typically like the downside trade more than they do the upside. It's an interesting phenomenon. I've been doing this for 20 plus years, and for whatever reason, retail traders tend to like the down moves. They tend to be faster and more volatile, and they can get in. So we certainly have not seen a pullback because of the decline in crypto prices. If anything, we've seen an increase in activity. And of course, these products are relatively new, or at least the Coinbase product is relatively new. We're a little over a month into it, but interest in this product has been phenomenal. And I think that as long as it's moving, the worst case scenario is the price flatlines, it doesn't trade, and there's no opportunities. As long as it's moving up or down, retail traders are typically interested in getting involved.
I'm glad to hear that the interest remains strong in all things crypto. We obviously have a vested interest in crypto interest here on the program. But you touched on some other products. Obviously, the Nanos are the latest addition to the crypto offerings out there. But obviously, CME's been playing in this space for a little while as well, including launching their micro offerings over the last few years. What are your thoughts on those products? And have you seen a groundswell of interest in those as well over there at NinjaTrader / Tradovate over the last couple of years?
We certainly have had interest. I would think, though, it depends on the size of the retail trader. The CME product is a fabulous product. For most retail traders, or at least for some retail traders, it's still a bit too large. And so while we've had interest in it, and our traders actually, or our audience does trade it, we've seen far more interest in the Nano product than the micro product. Now, CME is a fabulous partner to us. We offer all of their products. Our customers trade, hundreds of millions of their contracts, and they've been a great partner to us. With that said, we see more interest in the nano size, and that's the direction of the retail. Smaller is better. Bite size is better. If you think about why did people always trade spiders on the equity side as opposed to the index futures prior to the prior to the micros. It was because they could do them in more bite-sized increments. And so we're seeing that same thing on the crypto future side. Smaller is better, and certainly it is where the retail interest is. So while we have interest in the CME's micro Bitcoin, I would say there's more interest in the smaller nano product.
Well, you've been around the future space for a while. And speaking of new futures products and futures, shall we say, adjacent products, we have seen a lot of evolution in that side of the space over the last year or so as well, including the launch of the BITO, the ProShares BITO ETF back towards the latter portion of last year. Like we mentioned, you've been around the retail future space for quite some time. So I'm very curious about your thoughts on this product. After all, this is kind of effectively a gateway product to get into futures for a lot of retail who maybe they don't have a futures account yet, or for some reason, maybe they're still a little bit unsure. They're unready to take that first step, that plunge into the futures market. So the BITO product offers them a proxy, a way to access the CME Bitcoin futures. I'm curious, Rick, what are your thoughts on this BITO product and these attempts to try to provide these gateway drugs, for lack of a better word, for retail to take their first steps into the futures markets?
Yeah, I think that all products that are promoting an asset class, and let's call that cryptocurrency. So I think all products are, like you said, a gateway in, and really when we think about it, the gateway, we think about it as education. How can we provide education and knowledge to our retail traders, whether that be through an ETF or through a futures contract or the cryptocurrency itself. The more that the retail traders understand, and however they get introduced to that, to us, that's a winner. And regardless of which product it is, I mean, we focus on retail futures, and that's the only class, or on futures, that's the only asset class that we offer. We are all for product expansion, and I would think that when you think about product expansion and the coming of the CME's event contracts in September, I would think that shortly you'll also see event contracts where it's simply a yes or no. Is Bitcoin or is Ether going to finish above or below a price at a certain period of time, whether that be a day or week or a month? That's probably the next evolution. But to answer your question directly, we think all of these products in summation are good for the space.
The event contracts. Talk about a gateway. That opens the floodgates, Rick, to a lot of interesting things that people have wanted for many years, right? Political events, sporting events, you name it. Not quite there from a regulatory perspective yet, but the idea is certainly tantalizing, I think, to a lot of people here in the space. Well, Rick, I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to join us here in the Crypto Hot Seat, give our listeners a bit of an overview of the new Nano offerings from Coinbase Derivatives. But before we go, we like to leave our audience wanting more. So if there's a topic we didn't get a chance to squeeze in there today, you want to touch on it really quickly, or perhaps you want to leave our audience with a little bit of a hint, a little bit of a tease of what they can expect from you and the team over there at Ninja Trader Group and Tradovate in the coming months. Now is the time, sir. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I certainly would ask that you pay attention to the crypto space and the crypto futures. The tease is that Coinbase will be launching a Nano Ether here. The date hasn't been exact date hasn't been set, but we expect that to be sometime in August, and so that'll be another product to add to the mix. Where we have the Nano Bitcoin today, the Nano Ether is coming. I would welcome your listeners to go to our website, which is just tradovate.com, TRAD, there's no E, TRADOVAT.com. And on the front banner, there's a Get Into Crypto. If you click that, you can trade these products in simulation. With real-time market data, you can get the feel, you can see how easy it is. It's real-time market data. Your P&L is going to be marked to the market. And it's a great way to test your skills, learn about the product before opening an account. And we'll have both the Nano Bitcoin as well as the Nano Ether, or really any of our other products from Eurex or CME on there if you want to try those out.
Nano ETH. Now you're speaking the language of a lot of our listeners, I think, there, Rick. I think you got a lot of people intrigued by that idea. If you want to learn more, listeners, Tradovate. Don't forget, leave off the E. Tradovate.com is the place to go to learn more about these products and a whole bunch more. And meanwhile, it's time for us to keep on rolling. It is time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
It's time to explore the latest trending activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Bitcoin Breakdown, the portion of the show where we do just that. We break down all the action in the world's leading digital asset. We're talking about the big dog, which is Bitcoin, a little bit bigger this week than it was this time last week. Is crypto winter finally come to an end? I leave it to you folks to sort it out in your questions and your comments and your emails and your Twitter mentions and everything else along those lines, comments on YouTube, all that fun. Coming into showtime, we had Bitcoin a little bit shy of 23,000, about 22,882. That's up almost exactly 1,000 handles from where it was last week, 21,886 on our last show. So 996 and a half handles to be precise out there. In terms of lows, we saw the low last Tuesday, so right after our last show, of about 20,752. So not quite breaking the 20,000 level, but threatening it a bit. And then the high was Saturday, 24,535. Let's get out into the vol. Of course, all these analytics coming at you, courtesy of our friends over there at Genesis Volatility. gvol.io is the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. If you did so, you would see that there hasn't been a lot of evolution on the vol front this week. We were at a 74 coming into last week's show, and this week, 73.85. So it's pretty much unchanged on the week, listeners. Our buddy Mr. Simon Ho, his 30-day rolling bit vol, effectively his Bitcoin VIX, reflecting something similar. It was an 81.3 on our last show. Today, an 80 exactly. So pretty much hanging out from a vol perspective this week. Something similar on the skew front as well. That 30-20 skew. So remember, listeners, that's taking all the options in the 30 delta down to the 20 delta in that strip and kind of averaging them together. If you don't know what any of that means, check out the rest of our content on the network, in particular, our educational content options bootcamp, options playbook radio that will serve you well to learn about all this fun and a whole bunch more. So you're not confused when you come on to the show, listeners. Last week, we were about almost negative 3, about negative 275 from a skew perspective. This week, still negative, but a little bit less, about negative 1.8. Simon's bit skew reflecting a little bit of evolution there as well, but not much. It was an 89 on our last show, a 93.6 this week. Let's get out to the OI out there on Deribit. What is open? Remember, we did see July roll off the board since our last show. We are recording this, of course, August 1st. Now, listeners, July took quite a bit of paper with it, over 77,000 contracts. So let's see what we have left on the OI front. Both of them going to be down, not surprisingly. On Deribit, there's about almost 125,000, 124,750 contracts open right now. That's down about 23,000 contracts. The put 63,500 open. That's down also about 23,000 contracts. Still hanging out right about that 2-to-1 level calls over puts right now. Getting on out to the top expiration months. Where are you folks hanging out now that July is gone? Well, September has taken the front spot with 58,500 contracts. It's up about 2,500 from this time last week. December has 50,200 contracts open. It's up about 1,200 from this time last week. And then the new addition to the top 3 this week, we have August with 31,000 contracts. Obviously, that will continue to move up as the weeks progress. Let's get out and see what the size positions are in Bitcoin options right now. What are the big open positions? Let's find out. Number 5 this week is the 26,000 strike. It has 8,000 contracts open. That's actually a newcomer to our top 5. So 26,000 sliding in there. Interesting. Number 4, the 30,000 strike. Now we're getting back some of the round numbers again. 8,600 contracts open. That's down 5,600 contracts from this time last week. In fact, 3 and 4 are a tie. The 20,000 strike also has 8,600 contracts open. That's down about 2,900 contracts from this time last week. It's pretty much down across the board, listeners. As you mentioned, July going the way of the dodo, taking a lot of paper with it. Number 2, the 40,000 strike, 9,500 contracts open. That's down about 600 from this time last week. And the number 1 open position in Bitcoin options on Deribit right now remains the 25,000 strike. It has 16,000 contracts open. That's down about 1,600 from this time last week. In terms of action over the course of the past week, it's been in like the 14 to 16,000 contracts range most of the day. So not nothing, but nothing to write home about either. Weirdly enough, looks like some beefy contracts traded back on the 24th. So, of course, back the day before, actually, our last show, which is kind of interesting because only 14,300 contracts went up, but 33 million worth of notional premium traded that day, which is kind of where it's about double, if not triple, what's traded pretty much every other day this week. So something meaty traded in some blocks that day on the 24th. Every other day was kind of been middling out there. Let's get on out to the CME front. We're just talking about these with Rick from Ninja Trader Group, seeing what's going on the CME crypto offerings. The big Bitcoin options actually getting a little bit more active this week. The OI has jumped up to about 5,000 contracts. So it's up nearly 1,000 from this time last week. So that's a big jump for them. And about 252 trading on Friday. Again, not a ton, but for a 5X contract that's kind of languished, that's actually a fair amount of paper. The futures, the OI, there is kind of hanging out, unched 13,800, same as last week. And we saw 8,500 going up on Friday. It's nothing really to write home about on the big futures front. Let's see if the micros are living up to the action that Rick was describing over there at Ninja Trader these days. Let's see. The OI is up about 1,600 contracts to about 23,600. And we saw about 10,500 going up on Friday. So kind of a sleepy Friday across the board, with the exception of a little bit of the options going up over there at CME. But now it's time to explore beyond Bitcoin. Let's head on into the altcoin universe.
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the altcoin universe.
All right, everybody, welcome to the altcoin universe, the portion of the show where we explore everything going on outside of the big dog, which is Bitcoin, except for right now. We break things down from a market cap perspective, looking at the top 10 coin/assets by market cap. Number 10, the old Doge hanging out, still there, just a tick shy of 9 billion. So still managed to cling on to the number 10 spot in our top 10. Number 9, Solana, 14.2 billion. Number 8, Cardano, 16.9 billion worth the market cap. Number 7, Binance USD, 17.8 billion. Number 6, XRP, 18 billion. So once again, XRP and Binance USD fighting neck and neck for that number 6/7 spot. Number 5, we got good old BNB, 45 billion. So again, we have jumped up from 6 to 5. That remains the case. Number 4, USD coin, 54, almost 54.5 billion. Number 3, it's Tether, 66.2 billion. Numero due, you know what it is. It's ETH, 198, just a little bit shy of the 200 B level. And number 1 out there this week is Bitcoin, 438 billion worth of market cap. Again, almost 200 billion for ETH, 438 billion for Bitcoin. So all you flippening devotees out there, maybe you're getting excited out there as ETH continues to move. Ticking up again this week, 15.17 on the show last week, 16.26 this week, up nearly 110 handles over the course of the past week. ETH's been on a nice little run. Of course, it was below 1,000 very briefly, not that long ago. So it has had quite the rebound. The high it hit was last Thursday, 17.56. And the low was 13.66 last Tuesday. So a little bit of a range, almost 400-point range on the week. In terms of vol, given the fact that we had a decent range out there in ETH and we're seeing a little bit of price action, the vol kind of hanging out, which is pretty much what you might expect. Actually getting a little bit frothier. It was a 99.5 on last week's show. This week, back into triple digits, exactly 100 when we kicked off the show. So 100 vol, that takes a lot to maintain that. And so far, ETH has been able to maintain it, listeners. Skew-wise, not a lot of evolution there. It was negative 2.5 on last week's show. This week, guess what? Negative 2.5. No change there whatsoever. OI, same deal as we saw with Bitcoin. A lot coming off the board with July. Even though, surprisingly, the calls managed to rebound and actually gain some OI, which is kind of interesting. The calls open on Deribit right now, 2.81 million, up another 200,000. So even with July rolling off the board, they managed to increase the OI on the call front, which is kind of interesting. The puts, they took a hit. They are 726,000 open there. That's down 124,000. So, yeah, we're pretty much almost 4-1 now calls over puts in ETH from an OI perspective, which is pretty sizable, listeners. It's usually 2. Lately, it's been flirting with 3, but now flirting with 4, which is heck of a lot of upside interest in ETH right now. Interest / concern, call it what you will. In terms of action, the big day since our last show was July 27th. We saw a fairly active day, 284,000 contracts on the tape. It's not the most active day we've seen this year, but it's respectable nonetheless. We saw back in mid-July, we saw 381,000 contract day on July 17th. June 13th, we saw nearly 400,000 contracts. May 11th, you saw 461,000 contracts. So not quite there, but 284, a respectable day, all things considered. Let's get on out to the OI front, see what's going on. Obviously, July going the way of the dodo, taking a lot of paper with it, listeners. Now, number 1 in our hearts is December, 1.25 million contracts open. That's up another 278,000. You know, we've been seeing a lot of interest. Last week, it was this December 3000s. Let's see what's going on this week. Spoiler alert. Yeah, those are still pretty active. Followed by number 2, SEP, 914,000 contracts open there. That's up 23,000. And the newest addition to the top 3 in ETH is March with 536,000 contracts. You notice anything there, listeners? Yes, it's all quarterlies. Yet again, ETH, they just love a quarterly expiration cycle. I don't know what it is that draws them to it like moths to a flame, but they cannot break away from that. Let's get on out to the top 5. Since I already kind of gave you a bit of a spoiler, we'll start at the top, listeners. The number 1 size position yet again in ETH options is the 3,000 strike. Once again, adding over 116,000. So a month when we saw July roll off the board, a week, I should say, when July rolled off the board, we have the 3,000s, mostly in December, continuing to remain very active. Nearly 400,000 open for number 1. 393,000 contracts open on that 3,000 strike. And again, the lion's share out there in December. Number 2, we have the 4,000 strike. We're going to get back there by December expiration. A lot of paper lining up there, listeners. 281,000 contracts there. That's up 94,000. Probably some vertical action baked in there as well. Some 3,000, 4,000 action there. Number 3, we have the 3,500 strike. 231,000 contracts on the tape. It's up 55,000. So a lot of increases this week, which is kind of surprising given what we've seen out there over the course of just so much OI rolling off the board over the past week. Number 4, the 2,500 strike, 187,000 contracts there. That's up 8,000. We got to go all the way down to number 5 to find our first decrease. That's the 5,000 strike. That has 156,000 contracts open. That's down 9,000 from this time last week. So that's a lot of paper still lining up here in ETH, listeners, which is kind of fascinating. Let's get on out to CME front, see if they followed suit. Last Friday, our last trading day, we saw nearly 6,000 of the big ETH futures going up. That's nothing to sneeze at. It's a pretty beefy contract. And the OI has ticked up a couple hundred to about 4,000. So it's pretty much unchanged there, but a little bit of action on the big ETH future. Let's see what's going on the micro front. And, you know, the OI there, getting back to what Rick was saying about the interest and all things small, the nanos are obviously doing well on the Bitcoin front, but the micro ETH futures, the OI, skyrocketing over the past week. It's up 20,000 contracts to 65,000 contracts open on the micro ETH futures now. So you folks are clearly piling into these 26,000 more trading on Friday. So, man, it's quite a tsunami of paper on the micro ETH front. Let's do a quick rundown here of some of the other altcoin, then we'll get out of here for this week, listeners. XRP, our old friend XRP, trending up this week. It was about 34.5 cents on last week's show, 37.3 cents. This week's up about 2.8 cents. Good old Dogecoin, 6.4 cents last week, 6.7 cents, so up slightly on the week. A Litecoin, 56.25 last week, 58 and about a half this week, so up a little bit over 2, about 2.25 almost on the week. Let's go out some others really quickly. Cardano, kind of unched. It was about 49 cents last week, 50.5 cents, so up slightly, but nothing to write home about. Polkadot, 8.15 this week, 7.02 last week. So a nice pop, over a buck, $1.13 on the week. Solana, 38.43 last week, 41.17 this week, up about 2 3/4. And why not? Because a lot of you love it. Let's go out to Shiba Land. It was 0.000011 last week. This week, 0.000012. All right, everybody, that is going to do it for the Crypto Rundown this week. I want to thank my guest, Rick Tomsic, the Chief Strategy Officer of Ninja Trader Group and the founder at Tradovate. You guys know where to go to learn more. Tradovate, Tradovate.com is the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires on these new Nano Bitcoin futures. And, of course, you know where to go to learn more about all the analytics we talked about this week. gvol.io, gvol.io is the place to go if you're even remotely intrigued by these markets, and you owe it to yourself to check them out. Great new slogan over there to go along with the new coat of paint at Genesis Volatility. So much edge, you'll cut yourself. That just brought a smile to my face. Check it out for yourselves. gvol.io is the place to go. We got to get out of here, listeners. Remember, no Pro Q&A tomorrow. It has been moved to Friday. So you're going to get another double dose of pro goodness on Friday. Oddities followed by Mr. Once and Future Dr. Vix joining us to answer your deluge of volatility and other questions. Start getting them in now. Those are usually pretty popular when we have the Once and Future Dr. Vix on there. And of course, if you want to join the party, you want to check out everything you missed last week, you want to get access to all the new stuff, everything you missed, really, I should say, for the last pretty much year and change. A whole bunch of great pro Q&As, whole bunch of great episodes of Options Oddities. You want to get entered into all of our drawings to win great custom loot, as well as, of course, check out all the shows we do here on the network live. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro is the place to go. Back again, Education Wednesday with Options Bootcamp and Options Playbook Radio, all the way through to next Monday, another episode of the Crypto Rundown. Stay safe out there, everybody.
This program is brought to you by Genesis Volatility, also known as GVol, home of institutional-grade crypto options analytics. Whether you're trading CeFi options or DeFi options, cryptocurrencies move. Use GVol Analytics to analyze implied volatility, model realized volatility, structure positions, and unlock alpha. For more information, visit gvol.io. That's gvol.io. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.